talking to us about writing. Well, my name is Adora, and at the age of 7, I published my first book. It's called Flying Fingers, Master the Tools of Learning Through the Joy of Writing, and it contains 9 of my stories and tips on writing. My second book is Dancing Fingers, and this is a book of poetry which I co-authored with my older sister, Adriana. So I really love to write, and one of my favorite things to write about is something called personal narrative. So raise your hand if you've learned anything about personal narrative. I see some raised hands. That's great. So what can you tell me about personal narrative?
Raise your hand. Who wants to say what a personal narrative is? Oh, they're being shy. Emma? Robert?
Isn't it something that you write about your experiences?
She asked, isn't it something when you write about your own experiences?
Very good. It's something when you write about your own experiences. Now, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit and ask you something a bit simpler. What is a narrative? So just think narrative. What is a narrative? Who would like to tell me what is a narrative?
Loud.
Well, if you think about what a personal narrative is the story from your own life. A narrative is just a story. So you've read many narratives before. The Lord of the Rings is a narrative, and so is your favorite cartoon. These are all narratives. Now, what are some other examples of narratives? Who would like to give me some other examples of narratives?
Adam.
Raise your voice, please.
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob, very good. SpongeBob is an example of a narrative. What are some other ones? So what are some stories you've read this week?
Aaron. Loud.
Wolf and Beyond, Lone Wolf.
Lone Wolf.
Lone Wolf. Okay, great. So I'm going to add one of mine to that list. Linda of Oz. Actually, I have to admit, I was reading this as an ebook on my phone, so and it was late at night. But I used to be a huge. I would read every single Oz book, and I saw it, and I said, "Huh, maybe I'll read that again." So that's another one. So you read narratives every day. Usually, you might read a story over a few weeks if it's a really long one. Things like SpongeBob, Lone Wolf, The Wizard of Oz. These are all narratives. Now, these are fictional narratives. So what does fiction mean?
What's fiction? Now. Yes, you want to. Fiction? Fiction?
Fiction means that it's true.
No. Oh my goodness. Trey.
Fiction, the definition for fiction is not real.
Fiction is not real. Very good. If all of these, so all of these are fiction. Unless you have actually seen SpongeBob walking down your street or any other of these characters, you know that these stories are probably not true, right? That means that they are fiction. Now, stories from your own life can be narratives too. A story from your own life is called a personal narrative, as we know. So today we're going to be learning about choosing a good personal narrative, choosing a good experience from our own life to talk about, and how to make it interesting. Now, let's start by asking, what kinds of stories do you like? Who would like to tell me, what kinds of stories do you like?
Ruth.
Mystery. Great.
Chris.
Scary.
Fairy tales or scary?
Scary.
Okay. Yeah, now, I have read some scary fairy tales. tales, but yeah, scary. Actually, that should be a separate section. Scary tales and fairy tales. Two different things. Yeah. Okay, so mystery, scary books. What are some other kinds of books you like?
Jenny.
Like action books.
Action books.
So action, adventure, mystery, scary, these are all different types of books that we may like. Now, one thing these books have in common is something called suspense. So, does anybody want to guess what suspense means? If a book is suspenseful, what does that mean it is?
Okay, Monique.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Interesting, very good. Stories are more exciting when they are suspenseful, when you're not sure how they are going to turn out. So if I read a book, like The Wizard of Oz, let's say I was reading The Wizard of Oz, and they said at the very beginning, oh, well, Dorothy's going to get back home to Kansas at the very end, and she's going to meet some nice people along the way, and she's going to kill the Wicked Witch. That's not very exciting, right? If that was right at the beginning of The Wizard of Oz, then no one would want to read beyond that page because it tells you everything that's going to happen. Now, when the actual Wizard of Oz, you don't know whether Dorothy is going to get back to Kansas. You don't know what's going to happen in the next chapter or on the next page. So most of the books you read, they're not going to tell you right at the beginning, everything's going to turn out fine, the evil person will be defeated. They drag it out and they make you wait and so that you'll keep on turning pages. Now, this whole thing about suspense, it's not just fiction. It can apply to your own life too. So can you remember a time in your own life when you were not sure how things were going to turn out? Would anybody like to give me an example, a time in their own life when you were not sure how things are going to turn out?
Kyra?
When my parents got divorced.
When your parents got divorced. That would definitely be a time when you're not sure how things are going to turn out, and a very challenging one. So that would be something that would definitely be, I don't know what will happen next. Very good. Would anybody else like to suggest one?
Candace.
When my aunt died.
Did you hear that when her aunt died?
When her aunt died. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. So definitely when loved ones pass away, when parents get divorced, these are all things when you're not really sure how things are going to turn out, and they really affect you quite a bit. So thank you very much for sharing that. Now, you have lots of times in your own life when you're not sure how things are going to turn out. It could be something as simple as taking a test or a trip to an unfamiliar place. Let's get one more example of a time in your own life when you weren't sure how things were going to turn out.
Jervon.
When I got a dog?
When you got a dog. Getting a pet is a great example because you're wondering, will my pet make trouble? Will the dog ever get potty trained? Will the dog bite people? I can think of a lot of reasons you might not be sure about getting a dog. Will the dog mess up my room? Yeah, there will be a lot of questions about getting a dog. Will my parents eventually be taking care of the dog? Yes, that will happen. But no, so there are lots of times in your own life when you're not sure if things are going to turn out. And the reason I'm telling you this is because these make great material for personal narratives. Fictional narratives, or the stories that you and I read every day, are exciting because they're suspenseful. We don't know what's going to happen next. Life, our own lives, and our personal narratives are exciting because we don't know what's going to happen next.